I never thought I'd be the guy posting something like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and I've been married to Lisa for about 7 years now. We met in college, got married right after she finished her PhD, and for the most part I thought we had a good thing. She was always a bit bitchy, yeah, but I chalked it up to her being stressed or just her personality. Still, she was beautiful, smart, ambitious, everything I ever wanted, or so I thought. At the beginning, everything seemed fine. We traveled a lot for her conferences and I supported her research. But lately, I'd started noticing little things. She'd be more irritable, snapping at me over nothing, canceling plans without much explanation. She'd brush it off, say I was overthinking or that she was just busy. Honestly, I wanted to believe her. Maybe I was reading too much into it. Then 2 weeks ago, I found the first real clue. I was at work when I got a message from a friend saying they'd seen Lisa at the conference in New York. But it wasn't just that. My friend mentioned she was seen leaving a hotel with someone. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe she was just networking or maybe she was staying late at the conference. But then I remembered she'd said she was sharing a room with her research partner, Mark. They'd been working together for a while now and I'd always trusted them, or so I thought. That night, I decided to check her social media. I don't usually do that kind of thing, but I'd been feeling weird lately, and what I found made my stomach turn. She had posted a photo from the conference, captioned "Great night with my favorite partner in crime," with a blurry picture of her and Mark, clearly entering the hotel together. The timing was right around when they would have been at the conference. Seeing that, I felt like my heart dropped. It wasn't just innocent work stuff. It was something else. I stayed up all night, staring at the screen, trying to tell myself I was overreacting. But then I remembered the hotel's security cameras. I knew they had footage, and I also knew the hotel had cameras that covered the entrances and hallways. So I did what any rational person would do. I started digging. I found out the hotel was just a few blocks away from where I worked, and I called to see if I could get access to the footage for that night. The hotel manager was hesitant at first, but I explained I was worried about my wife's safety and wanted to see if she had checked in with Mark. The next day, I got a call from the hotel. They had footage of Lisa and Mark entering the hotel together, late at night, around 11:30 p.m. They went into the same room. No doubt about it. That was the moment I realized she'd been lying, hiding something. I felt a mixture of anger, disbelief, and the deep ache of betrayal. I couldn't get that image out of my head, her walking into that hotel with him like she was trying to hide it. And I knew then she was cheating on me. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind raced. I kept asking myself how I missed it, how I could have been so blind. I thought about everything. The late nights she'd said she was working, the little things she'd brush off, the way she'd snap at me for no reason. It all clicked now. She'd been lying, cheating, sneaking around with my research partner, Mark, that bastard. I trusted him too once. Now I just saw him as the guy who stole my wife in cold blood. I was furious. I wanted to confront her immediately, but I knew I had to plan carefully. I couldn't just blow up without knowing what I was walking into. I needed to hear her side, her excuses. But the truth was, I already had it. The proof was staring me right in the face. She'd betrayed me, lied to my face, and made a fool out of me for months. And I needed to make her pay for that. I was done being the nice guy, no more Mr. Understanding or patient. She crossed every line, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. So, after I confirmed everything, I felt like I was walking around in a fog. My brain was racing, trying to process how Lisa could do this to me, to us. I kept replaying all the moments I now saw differently. Her snapping at me over small things, her sneaky phone calls, the way she'd avoid my eyes sometimes. It all made sense now. She'd been hiding something and I just handed her the perfect excuse with the hotel footage. I knew I had to confront her face to face. I couldn't just leave it like that. But I also knew I couldn't just come home and yell. I needed a plan. So I decided I'd wait until she came home from her conference, then lay everything out. I'd give her a chance to explain herself, but honestly, I wasn't hopeful. I was prepared for her to deny everything, spin stories, or even try to gaslight me. I had no doubt she'd lie her ass off. That night I stayed quiet. I didn't sleep much, just staring at the ceiling, trying to think how I'd bring it up. When she finally got home the next evening, she looked exhausted, but there was a sneaky glint in her eye, like she knew she was about to get away with something. I was seething, but I kept my cool. I told her I needed to talk, that I found some things I couldn't ignore. That's when I dropped the bomb. I knew about the hotel, about her and Mark, about everything. Her reaction was instant. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and started with her usual bullshit. "You're overreacting, Jake. You're paranoid. I was just working late, staying professional. Mark and I are just friends, okay? You're making a huge deal out of nothing." She looked annoyed, like I was the one causing trouble. She even tried to laugh it off, saying I was being jealous, that I didn't trust her. That cheap, bitchy tone, like she thought this was just some misunderstanding, not the betrayal it was. I didn't buy her crap. I told her I saw the footage, I knew she lied, and I wasn't going to live in some world where she pretended everything was fine. She kept denying, throwing in some classic lines like, "You don't have proof," or "You're just insecure." But I had the proof. The hotel footage, the pictures, the way she was acting guilty as hell. I could see it all over her face. That was the moment I realized how deep her lies went, how much she'd been screwing around behind my back. She got defensive, of course. Started calling me crazy, saying I was jealous, that I was just imagining things. But I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I told her I wasn't stupid, that I knew the truth, and that I was done. Done with her lies, her cheating, her bullshit. I told her I wanted her out of the house, that I needed space to think. She tried to throw some more lies, some tears, even called me insecure and accused me of cheating myself because I was so paranoid. But I wasn't falling for it. I knew her game now. The worst part was how calm I felt during the confrontation. Inside, I was boiling, but I knew I had to stay composed. I didn't want her to see how much she'd broken me. I wanted her to see I was serious, that I wasn't going to be played anymore. I told her to pack her things, that she had no right to stay anymore, and that I would be calling a lawyer if she tried to manipulate her way out of this. As she stormed out, screaming some bullshit about how I was overreacting, how she loved me, and I was just jealous or insecure, I felt a strange mix of relief and devastation. Relief because I finally had the truth, no more guessing, no more lies. But devastation because I realized everything I thought I knew about my marriage was a lie. And the worst part, I had to live with knowing she'd been lying to my face, cheating behind my back with someone I trusted. Since that night, everything been a blur. I've been trying to sort through my feelings, anger, sadness, betrayal. I keep asking myself how I didn't see it coming, how I missed all the signs. It hurts like hell. It's like someone took my life, turned it upside down, and left me to pick up the pieces. But I also know I can't keep living in this mess. I've got to figure out what's next. The days that followed were the worst of my life. I felt like I was walking around in a fog, trying to breathe through this crushing sense of betrayal. Everywhere I looked, I saw her face, heard her lie, remembered her smirk as she tried to deny everything. It was like my mind was stuck replaying the moment I found out, over and over. And honestly, I didn't know how to handle all these emotions: rage, hurt, a deep sense of loss that felt like a punch to the gut every time I thought about her cheating with Mark. I started questioning everything: our entire relationship, the future I'd envisioned with her, the trust I thought we had. I kept going back to that hotel footage, to the pictures I'd snuck out of her purse when she wasn't looking, to the way she'd been acting so distant lately. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been blind, that I'd missed all the signs. She was always bitchy, sure, but I thought she was just stressed. Turns out she was hiding a whole different side, the side that was cheating on me with my research partner, that bastard Mark. I wanted to confront him, but I wasn't sure what good it would do. I knew he'd deny everything, try to spin some story about how it was innocent, that they were just working late. But I had proof. Clear, undeniable proof. Still, I felt like going to his face and ripping him apart. The thought of him laughing in my face, acting like he didn't do anything wrong, made my blood boil. The betrayal was bad enough. But the fact that he was supposed to be my friend, that made it 10 times worse. Meanwhile, Lisa kept trying to contact me, sending texts, leaving voicemails. She was bitchy in her messages, accusing me of being overly jealous, insecure, and crazy. She'd say things like, "You don't understand how stressful this is for me," Or, "You're ruining everything," as if I was the one who cheated and lied. I didn't reply. Honestly, I didn't want to hear her lies anymore. Her words just made me angrier. I knew she was just trying to manipulate her way back in, and I wasn't going to let her do that. One night, I decided I needed to get out of the house. I couldn't stand the silence, the emptiness. So I went to a bar, sat alone at the corner, and just drank. I needed the numbness. A few drinks in, I started thinking about my options. Do I try to work this out? Can I ever trust her again? Or should I just cut my losses, file for divorce, and move on? The thought of starting over was terrifying, but the idea of staying and pretending everything was fine was worse. While I was there, I ran into an old friend, Sarah. She's been through her share of shit, so I opened up to her about everything. She listened quietly, then finally said, "Jake, this is fucked up. You deserve better than someone who cheats and lies. Don't let her manipulate you into staying. You gotta do what's right for you." Her words hit home hard. I knew I had to take charge of this mess, even if it meant tearing everything apart. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache and a clearer mind. I made a decision. I'd end things with Lisa. Not in a rush, not out of anger alone, but because I realized I couldn't trust her anymore. I deserved someone who wouldn't cheat on me, someone who'd be honest and respectful. That morning, I drafted a calm but firm message telling her I wanted a divorce, that I couldn't live with her lies, and that I needed to move on with my life. It felt like a huge weight lifted, even though I knew I was about to go through one of the hardest times of my life. I sent the message, then sat there staring at my phone, wondering what would happen next. Would she fight? Would she try to manipulate me into staying, or would she just accept it? Honestly, I didn't care anymore. Whatever she did, I was done. I didn't know how I'd wake up every day knowing she'd cheated on me with Mark, my trusted research partner. But I knew one thing: I was going to rebuild my life no matter what. The pain was deep, but I was determined to get past it. Right now, I'm just trying to breathe, trying to process everything. I have no illusions this is going to be a long road, but I'm not going to let her ruin me. I learned the hard way that some people aren't worth fighting for. And the biggest lesson: never ever ignore the signs. Trust your gut and don't be afraid to walk away when someone betrays you that badly. Because at the end of the day, you've got to protect yourself. That's what I plan to do now. After I sent that message, silence. I expected her to call, to try to argue, maybe even sob her way back into my good graces. But she didn't. For a few days, I heard nothing except the occasional message where she called me insecure and paranoid, still trying to spin it all as if I was the one at fault. Honestly, I wasn't even mad anymore. I was just numb. I had made my decision and I was sticking to it. I needed space, time to breathe, to figure out what the hell just happened to my life. During those days, I started digging into everything I could find about Mark. I wanted to understand what kind of guy would do this, betray his friend, his colleague, all for some secret hookup. I found out that Mark had a reputation for being a player, someone who always chased after the next thrill. That didn't surprise me. What did surprise me was how close they were. They'd been working on a joint project for months, and I had always thought that was just professional. Turns out it was more than that. They'd been sneaking around behind my back during conferences, during late nights in hotel rooms, and I had no idea. I also started noticing other things about Lisa. She was still bitchy, still acting like I was the crazy one. She'd lash out at me for little things, accuse me of spying on her, and even try to guilt-trip me into saving our marriage. But I saw through that. I wasn't buying her bullshit anymore. She was trying to manipulate, trying to bring me back with tears and guilt, but I knew better now. I knew she'd been lying from the start, and I wasn't naive enough to fall for it again. One afternoon, I decided I needed to see her face to face one last time, not to get back together, but to get some closure. I called her and told her I wanted to meet at a neutral place, somewhere public. She hesitated, but eventually agreed. When she arrived, she looked angry, defensive, like she was ready to fight. I didn't bother wasting time on small talk. I just laid it out. I knew about the hotel, about her affair, about Mark. I told her I'd seen the footage, that I knew she lied, and how deeply hurt I was. I asked her why she did it, how she could look me in the eyes and lie so blatantly. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and started with her usual excuses. "It was just sex," she said. "It didn't mean anything. We're just friends. I was stressed. You weren't around enough, and Mark was there for me. That's all it was." She claimed she'd never loved Mark, just needed some kind of escape, a way to feel alive. But I wasn't buying that bullshit anymore. I told her she was a bitch for cheating, for lying, and that I didn't want her to ever contact me again. I told her she was a liar and a manipulator, and I was done. She got furious, screaming at me about how I was insecure, how I didn't deserve her, and that she'd never cheat if I just paid more attention. That was the moment I saw her for what she really was: selfish, bitchy, and completely self-absorbed. She didn't even try to deny the affair anymore. She just kept throwing accusations at me, saying I was the problem, not her. But I'd heard enough. I told her to leave, that I never wanted to see her again. I walked away, feeling a strange mix of relief and deep sadness. It was over. The emotional toll hit me hard. After that, every night I'd lie awake replaying everything. I couldn't help but ask myself over and over, how did I miss all these signs? How could she do this to me, to us? I felt betrayed, angry, and broken. But I also knew I couldn't keep living in that pain forever. I had to start rebuilding. I started going to therapy, trying to process the trauma. I reached out to friends, even started hitting the gym to release some of that anger. I realized I couldn't change what she did, but I could control how I responded. Slowly, things started to get better. Not easy, not quick, but better. I still had days where I felt like crying, days where I wanted to call her and scream. But I kept reminding myself that I was better off without her. She was a bitch, a liar, and a cheat. And the last thing I wanted was to spend my life with someone like that. I deserved better. I deserved honesty, respect, and someone who wouldn't treat me like I was disposable. The weeks turned into a couple of months, and I won't lie, things weren't easy. Every day was a battle. Between anger, sadness, and a strange sense of liberation, I threw myself into work, trying to drown out the constant replay of her betrayal. I started dating casually, testing the waters again, but honestly, I didn't find much joy in it. Trust was shattered, and every new person felt like a gamble. Still, I knew I had to move forward, even if that meant rebuilding from the ground up. What really changed my perspective was realizing how much energy I'd wasted trying to salvage something that was already broken beyond repair. The emotional abuse, the lies, the sneaking around, it all added up to one thing. I was no longer willing to be a victim of her bitchy attitude and manipulations. I learned a lot about myself during this process. I learned that I was stronger than I thought, capable of walking away from someone I loved when they so blatantly disrespected me. I also started reflecting on the part I played in all this. Honestly, I think I was a little naive. I always believed in honesty, loyalty, the idea that love was unconditional. But I see now that not everyone values those things. Lisa showed me her true colors. And I had to accept that she was just not meant for me. It hurt to admit that, but it was necessary. I realized I'd been holding on to the idea of what I wanted her to be, not who she really was. One day, I finally sat down and drafted a letter. No, not a goodbye letter to her, but a letter to myself. It was about learning to forgive, letting go of the pain, and moving on. I told myself that I deserved better, that I wouldn't let her betrayal define me, and that I was going to rebuild my life on my own terms. That was a turning point. I knew I had to let go, even if part of me still felt the sting of her betrayal. Holding on to anger or grief wouldn't change anything. I had to accept what happened and focus on my future. I decided to get legal advice about ending the marriage. Honestly, I didn't want to drag things out in court, but I knew I needed to protect myself financially and emotionally. We hadn't accumulated much together, so it was straightforward, but the process still hurt. I told her I was filing for divorce, and I kept it calm, no yelling, no insults. I just wanted everything finalized so I could finally breathe again. Now I'm trying to focus on myself. I've started new hobbies, reconnected with friends, and even planned a solo trip to get some perspective. It's not easy. I still have days where I feel like crap, where I wonder if I'll ever fully trust someone again. But I know I'm better off without her. She was a bitch, a cheater, and someone who didn't respect me. The worst part, I wasted so much time believing she was better than that. Looking back, I wish I'd seen the signs sooner, but I also realized that I can't change the past. What I can do is learn from it. I've become more cautious, more aware of my worth. I won't let anyone treat me like I'm disposable again. And honestly, I hope some guy out there reads this and thinks twice before ignoring the signs. Because once you get betrayed like this, it's hard to come back from it. But you do. You eventually do. And when you do, you'll come out stronger, trust me. Now, sitting here reflecting on everything, I realize just how much this whole nightmare has changed me. Whether for the better or worse, I'm still figuring that out. One thing I do know is that I don't regret uncovering the truth, no matter how painful it was. Sometimes, you need to hit rock bottom to see things clearly. I thought I was in love, thought she was my everything. But betrayal doesn't just hurt, it shatters your illusions about the person you trusted most. It forces you to confront your own strength, your capacity to survive even the worst heartbreak. I learned that people can be two-faced, bitchy, manipulative, and selfish. Lisa proved that to me in the most brutal way. But I also learned that I don't have to accept that kind of treatment. I don't have to be the doormat for someone's lies and bullshit. I deserve honesty, respect, and someone who values me for who I am, flaws and all. And if I don't get that, I'm better off alone than stuck in a relationship full of lies. Going through this has been a harsh lesson. It's made me more cautious, yes, but it's also made me more aware of my own worth. I've come to understand that sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is walk away. No matter how much you love someone, if they're betraying you, lying to your face, and treating you like an afterthought, then they don't belong in your life. End of story. Now I focus on rebuilding. I know it's going to take time. I've accepted that I'll have bad days, moments where I question everything. But I also know I won't let that define me. I've started therapy, reconnected with friends, and even started dating again, slowly, carefully. I don't trust easily anymore, but I'm learning to trust myself. And that's what matters most. Most importantly, I want to say to anyone reading this, don't ignore the signs. If someone is lying, cheating, or manipulating, don't brush it off. Protect yourself. Because nobody deserves to be treated that way. Sometimes the hardest thing in the world is walking away from someone you love. But the moment you do, you start healing, you start living again. And that's what I'm doing now. Living my life, free from the lies and finally truly moving on.